All right, on June 3rd, we are officially going live. Family Reconnect program. Now, what does this consist of? If you're a parent, family member, loved one, and you have somebody in your life that's struggling with addiction, I understand it can be super frustrating. You're angry, you're scared, a lot of emotions. Totally understand. This is why we created this. Myself, Ben Tambini, and a ton of other people, experts in this field. We want to come alongside you and help navigate this with you. No matter where you're at in the process, pre-treatment, during treatment, post-treatment, we got it covered. Now, one of the things is you have to help yourself, and you have to be open to talking with us and to allowing us to come with you on this process. And we want to do that. And that's how we came up with Family Reconnect. So what is this going to consist of? On June 3rd and every Tuesday moving forward, we are going live at 6 o'clock Eastern time. Now, it's going to be myself, Ben and Tambini, and also experts in the field. We're going to have therapists. We're going to have attorneys. We're going to have a ton of people that can speak into this. And this is something that you can register for at realrecoverytalk.com/FRC. Now, it also comes with a 12-week curriculum that you're going to get that we're going to go through together. You're going to have the weekly calls with myself, Ben, and Tambini, and whatever guests we have on. You're going to have your community. We're having a private Facebook community that is just for people in Family Reconnect. We're going to have newsletters going out on a weekly basis, a ton of resources for you and your situation. Again, this is June 3rd, we're going live. Now, what I want you to do is go and register at realrecoverytalk.com/FRC to register, get on the wait list, and then you'll get emails discussing pricing and stuff like that. There's a couple of options that you're going to be able to choose from, whichever one works best for you. Go ahead and sign up for that. Again, it's realrecoverytalk.com/FRC, and we will see you on June 3rd. Hey everybody, we've been working through the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous, and we're far enough along now to where we wanted to start releasing these not only on YouTube, but also on the podcast. Now, we did bypass week 1, so this is going into week 2. The reason we bypassed week 1, it was just an introductory. So week 2, we're actually getting into the big book, and we're starting off with the doctor's opinion. Now, this is multiple weeks long, so this is going to be coming out every single Wednesday for probably the next 12 to 16 weeks. So again, this is week 1. Technically, if you joined the Big Book study in the very beginning back in January, this is week 2. But for the sake of podcast and YouTube, this is week 1. I know that was probably confusing, but just watch and you'll figure it out. So we're getting into the doctor's opinion. And basically what we're doing is we're going through line by line in the big book with Erik, and he's breaking down this book like nobody else. And I know it's going to be very informative for you. You're going to get a lot out of this. Here's what I would recommend. Get a big book to follow along. You can go on Amazon. You can find them there. Just go on to Amazon, type in Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous, and pick up a copy of that. Get a good pen. Take notes. And really think about and analyze the things that Erik is talking about. Now, if you want to join the Big Book live, we probably have another 6 weeks left. You can do it at realrecoverytalk.com/big book study and register for it. And you can join us live every single Monday at 6 o'clock Eastern time. So without further ado, here is the Big Book study.
Here we go. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. And I love the translation of that prayer into God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the one thing that I can, and the wisdom to know that one thing is me. That's what I've got. I got about 3 feet around me, and that's what I can control. All right, so it's good to be back today. We're going to pick up. I'm going to go over a little bit of what we went over last week because we're about to finish up the doctor's opinion here. And I really want to go over again the allergy and the obsession. What makes me an alcoholic is the fact that I suffer from an allergy to alcohol when I put it in me, and an obsession of the mind that compels me to pick up alcohol again or drugs after it's cleared from my system. And so I spoke about this last week, but I'm going to review it again. We talked about how frothy emotional appeal seldom suffices when it's talking about the pleas from my family, the pleas from my loved ones, employers, whatever it is, the people in my life telling me that, hey, you have to quit drinking. You have to quit doing drugs. Frothy emotional appeal is the judge telling me, hey, if I see you in my courtroom again, you're going inside, right? It's the doctor telling me your liver's failing. You need to stop drinking. You're going to die. It's the wife saying, I'm taking you, I'm taking the kids, and I'm leaving, and I'm not coming back. That's frothy emotional appeal, and it says that it seldom suffices. Doesn't say never. Sometimes it does. Sometimes it might get me sobered up, get me clean for a little bit, but it never keeps me clean, and it never keeps me sober. And it goes on, and it says that then we're on page XXVIII here, 28, if you're on Roman numerals and doctor's opinion. It goes on, and it says that the message which can interest and hold these alcoholic people must have depth and weight, and that depth and weight comes from a recovered alcoholic, recovered drug addict saying, this is who I was, this is how I lived my life, this is how I drank, this is how I did drugs, and this is how I live my life today. It's the message of recovery that comes, the depth and weight actually lies within the wreckage of my past. It's one alcoholic to another. And it goes on, we talk about the allergy, and I'm going to review this. I had a really hard time wrapping my head around the allergy. I didn't understand what you meant by I had an allergy to alcohol. I drank so much alcohol. How could I have an allergy to it? And all an allergy is an abnormal reaction to something ingested, inhaled, rubbed up against. And I always understood that there's a physical manifestation to an allergy. Right? If I have an allergy to ragweed, every time I inhale, every time I rub up against ragweed, I'm around it, I get it into my face, I get watery, itchy eyes, a runny nose. There's a physical reaction, abnormal reaction to me being around that ragweed. If I have an allergy to milk, and I drink milk, I get dysentery, I get an upset stomach. If I have an allergy, a food allergy to, let's say, shellfish, I ingest shellfish, I go into anaphylactic shock, I get hives, my throat closes up, I get deathly ill. And if I remove that stuff from my system, I recover from the effects of that allergy, right? But the way that alcohol manifests itself, the allergy to alcohol manifests itself in the way it makes me feel, right? So to understand that, I have to understand how alcohol reacts with a normal person. If 95% of the population, they drink alcohol, and we all know these people, they drink alcohol, you give them a drink, you give them 2 drinks, it's a wonderful social lubricant. They tell a few jokes, they get a little giddy, they get happy, right? But you put a couple more drinks in them, 1 or 2 more drinks in them, and they start to feel the effects of the poison. They start to get the stomach ache, they start to feel queasy, they start to get loopy, losing control of their, motor skills. And then they start to feel tired. Alcohol is a depressant. The way it makes them feel acts as a depressant. They start to get tired. They start to get that feeling like, hey, I'm feeling this. I think it's time for me to stop. I feel like I need to go to bed. I do not get that feeling when I put alcohol in my body. The allergy is I have an abnormal feeling. That's the abnormal reaction, is the way it makes me feel. You put a couple of drinks in me, again, social lubricant. I get funnier. I can dance better. I can talk to people. I can make friends. But I want to go. I get a get up and go feeling. You put alcohol in me, and I want to go. I want to go to the after party. I want to go to the strip club. I want to go for a week. I want to go to Vegas. That's what happens to me. I do not want to go to bed. I don't want to stop. I have an absolutely abnormal reaction in the way that alcohol makes me feel. That's the allergy that I suffer from. And then we go on and we talk about the obsession, which we haven't really gotten into much, but the obsession is the thought that an obsession is a thought so powerful it makes me believe a lie. And I drink on that lie all the time. That's when I'm stone cold, stark raving sober. And I've got 1,000 experiences that tell me that this isn't a good idea. But yet I pick up a drink again because I have a twist of the mind that just tells me and just reminds me how alcohol is going to make me feel, and how alcohol makes me feel. It doesn't remind me what alcohol does to me. And that's the obsession. And it goes on here at the bottom of page XXVII. It says men and women drink essentially because they like the effect produced by alcohol, and the effect produced by alcohol is how it makes me feel. The sensation is so elusive that while they admit it is injurious, so it injures me, it's harmful to me, I can admit that, I can see that I burn my life down when I drink, they admit it is injurious, they cannot after a time differentiate the true from the false. And that was me. I couldn't see the truth at all. I remember coming into, when I first came to AA and I first came into rehab, and I would go around telling people, yeah, but don't you know I'm a good father? I'm a good father. I raised my son myself after my wife died. I'm a good father. Don't you know this? Right? Well, good fathers don't go to jail for getting into bar fights at 2:30 in the morning. I did. Good fathers don't drive drunk with their kids in the car, whether the kid knows it or not, whether I get caught or not. I did. I wasn't a good father, but I couldn't see that. I could not for the life of me see that. To them, their alcoholic life seems the only normal one. Of course it was, because all I hung out with were alcoholics at this point. At this point in my drinking career, and Bill W. throughout this book calls it a career, because that's what it became. My alcoholism absolutely became a career to me. And during that time, I couldn't see the true from the false. And everyone I hung out with at the end they were all alcoholics. Because that's all, my alcoholism dictated where and when I chose to participate in life. It was the only normal life to me. I can't go here for Christmas. Can't go to my mom's house because I can't drink the way that I want there. I can't go on vacation out of town because I don't have someone there to sell me what I need. It was absolutely my only normal life. They are restless, irritable, and discontent. And you can substitute that with fear, anxiety, shame, guilt, depression. Restless, irritable, and discontent, unless they can again experience the sense of ease and comfort, which comes at once by taking a few drinks. The restless, irritable, and discontent is when I'm sober. That's when I'm sober. Unless I can again experience the sense of ease and comfort, which comes at once by taking a few drinks which they see others taking with impunity. And impunity just simply means without any adverse effect. After they have succumbed to desire again, as so many do, and the phenomenon of craving develops, there's the allergy. The phenomenon of craving develops. They pass through the well-known stages of a spree. Spree is because of the allergy. That is the allergy. Emerging remorseful and with a firm resolution not to drink again. And I talked about this last week. What that looked like for me was coming out of my blackout, whether it's the morning, day, night, whatever, waking up and laying there and thinking, what did I do last night? And remembering, the memories come back. Oh my God, I can't believe I said that to my son. Oh, I got in a fight with her. I broke the teeth. The TV's out there busted, and it all comes back to me. And I'm laying there mortified, horrified. And I know now I got to go out there and I got to face them. That's what this looks like for me. Now I got to go out and I got to face them. And I go out there with a firm resolution. I promise I'm never doing this again. Please don't leave me. Take me back. I swear I'll go to rehab. I'll quit. And sometimes I meant it. Every time I meant it, you could give me a lie detector test and I would have passed it. And sometimes I did stay sober for a while. Right? But I begged them not to leave me. That's the firm resolution, not to drink again. And this is repeated. It goes on and says this is repeated over and over and over. And throughout my 25-year drinking career, that's what it was, over and over and over. And the people in my life that loved me, I held hostage. I didn't have relationships. I had hostages on this. I'm going to go get better. I promise. And they'd hold on to that belief. He's going to do it this time. He's going to do it this time. And I didn't. And if I had told my first wife, hey, look, I'm going to do this for the next 20 years. This is what you're going to get. She would have kicked me to the curb right away. But I didn't do that. I held her hostage. That's what that looks like for me. And it goes on and says, and unless this person can experience an entire psychic change, there's very little hope for his recovery. And a psychic change is an improved shift in thought and behavior. It's just a shift. It starts with a shift. And I say this all the time, talk about this all the time. If you're on an airplane and that airplane shifts a fraction of a degree, doesn't seem like a lot, it'll land you on a whole nother continent over time. That's what happens in this program. That's what this book does for us. In reading this and implementing the steps that are in this book, the work in this book, I begin to change. I begin to move different. I begin to have a different attitude towards life, towards my fellows, towards God's universe. That's the psychic change. On the other hand, and strange as this may seem to those who do not understand, once a psychic change has occurred, the very same person who seemed doomed, and I love that he uses the word doomed here, that seemed doomed, who had so many problems he despaired of ever solving them, suddenly finds himself easily able to control his desire for alcohol, the only effort necessary being that required to follow a few simple rules. And remember, this was Dr. Silkworth writing this, and he called those 12 steps rules. We're talking about the 12 steps and the 12 principles of Alcoholics Anonymous. Those are the rules. And this was me. I was doomed. I was a homeless alcoholic, and I'm living in a homeless park. That was 7 years ago. I had no way out. I was unemployable. I couldn't stop drinking no matter what. I had become invisible to everyone around me. And a few years later, from implementing these steps, here I am working in a field that I love today, the field of treatment, being able to carry a message, and my life has completely changed. And I never could have seen that light at that time. Men have cried out to me in sincere and despairing appeal, "Doctor, I cannot go on like this. I have everything to live for. I must stop, but I cannot. You must help me." Faced with this problem, if a doctor is honest with himself, he sometimes feels his own inadequacy. Although he gives all that is in him, it is often not enough. One feels that something more than human power is needed to produce the essential psychic change. And I just spoke of what a psychic change is. Now we're going to talk about a human power and what they mean by this. You're going to see throughout this book, they talk about no human power. We have placed ourselves beyond human aid, and they keep using that. And he's referring to the power greater than ourselves. And we're going to get this out of the way right now. We're talking about God, whatever that is for you. But this book is riddled with it. He uses phrases, Bill W. uses phrases like the great I am, the great fact, the great, he uses a lot of words, the spirit, the great spirit to define God. But we're not to define God, but to refer to God. But what he's talking about is our creator, whatever that is for you. But he says it. He actually says our creator in this book multiple times, your conception of that. And then he goes on, he says, so when we talk about a human power, look, I think about this a lot. If you're having a problem with the God thing, or he says human power. People say all the time, if you don't think there's a power greater than you, go stand in front of my truck, or go fight a gorilla if you don't think there's a power. This doesn't say something. That step 2 doesn't say came to believe that something stronger than us could restore us to sanity. It says a power greater than us. And as God's greatest creation, mankind, there is no power greater than us. We have dominion over everything. We put everything on a little phone here. We put a rover on Mars. We have dominion over everything except for Mother Nature, right? Hurricanes, whatever, the acts of nature. And from the beginning of time, man has referred to acts to Mother Nature, hurricanes, tornadoes, as acts of God or the gods. Since the beginning of time, he is without a doubt in this book referring to our creator. He calls it our creator, whatever that is for you. Though the aggregate of recoveries resulting from psychiatric effort is considerable. So what he's saying here is that the collection and the grouping of recovery and benefits of psychiatric change resulting from psychiatric effort is considerable. We physicians must admit we have made little impression upon the problem as a whole. Many types do not respond to the ordinary psychological approach. Many types. Some types do. I don't know. Some types respond to it and it helps us. And Bill W. goes on and he talks about this later on in this book. And in the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous, you'll hear people say all the time, and it's I think it's just out of repetition and hearing it, doctors can't help us. Only alcoholics can help us. Doctors can't. And it says in the back of this book, when we get to at the end, Bill W. says, God has blessed us with many great physicians and psychiatrists. Make sure that we make use of them. Dr. Silkworth, who wrote this chapter, who gave us the problem, Dr. Silkworth is the one who told us exactly what I'm telling you right now, what we're reading right now. This is Dr. Silkworth about the allergy and the obsession, actually told us what is wrong with us. He wasn't an alcoholic. He was a doctor. Later on, we're going to read about Dr. Carl Jung, who gave us the solution, that we need a spiritual solution. He gave us step 2. He was not an alcoholic. He was a doctor. So doctors do help us. They can help us. They have helped us. They've helped us a great deal. Without them, we wouldn't be here, right? So we need them. But it goes on. It says, we physicians must admit we have made little impression upon the problem as a whole. Many types do not respond to the ordinary psychological approach. I do not hold with those who believe that alcoholism is entirely a problem of mental control. I have had many men who had, for example, worked a period of months on some problem or business deal which was to be settled on a certain date favorably to them. They took a drink a day or so prior to the date, and then the phenomenon of craving became at once paramount to all other interests, so that the important appointment was not met. And we're going to break this down because I've done this all my life. And if you're an alcoholic like me, you're going to relate to this right here. So we've worked for a period of weeks, months, whatever it is, on some problem or business deal that's going to be settled on a certain date favorably to them. So I have a project at work, let's say, that I'm working on. I'm going to present it. I've worked for weeks or months preparing for this project. I'm going to present it next Thursday. So the certain date is next Thursday. And it's going to turn out favorably to me. I'm going to get the promotion. I'm going to impress the boss. Why? Because I've worked weeks or months on it. A certain date's next Thursday, and it's going to turn out, it's going to be settled on that certain date favorably to me. Or a test at school that I've studied for. I've studied for weeks. I've studied for months. That test is next Thursday, and I'm going to ace that test because I studied for weeks or months. I had the discipline to sit down and study for weeks, months, whatever it is, for this test. Going to be settled next Thursday. I'm going to ace it. And then I pick up that drink, right? It's going to be settled on a certain date favorably to them. They took a drink a day or so prior to the date, and the phenomenon of craving at once became paramount to all other interests, so that the important appointment was not met. And it says at once, right? And at once is right now. As soon as I pick up that drink takes precedent over everything else in my life, getting the next drink, right? So the important appointment was not met. These men were not drinking to escape. They were drinking to overcome a craving beyond their mental control. So I didn't pick up that drink because I had something wrong with my childhood, or because I was trying to escape from reality, or I took that drink because I have an obsession of the mind that compels me to drink, that tells me it's going to be different. I know that this is going to not a good idea, but I pick up that drink and the phenomenon of craving kicks in, and then I'm too drunk to go to the meeting. I'm too drunk to go to the test. Can't remember anything. And I begin to burn my life down there. And it says we were not drinking to escape. We're drinking to overcome a craving beyond our mental control. So it's not the allergy starts when I pick up the drink. But why did I pick up that drink? I've worked for weeks or months on this deal. I'm ready for it. I'm gonna kill it. But my mind tells me, hey, no, a drink's a good idea now. Let's pick up that drink. Let's have a drink. Let's go celebrate. Right? And all I think about is how that drink's going to make me feel, and let's go. And it just crowds out everything else that it's going to do to me. There are many situations which arise out of the phenomenon of craving, which cause men to make the supreme sacrifice rather than continue to fight. And that supreme sacrifice is just going on to the bitter end or suicide. There are many the classification of alcoholics seems most difficult and in much detail is outside the scope of this book. There all are, of course, and I'm going to relate to these. He's going to describe the types of alcoholics here and the behaviors, and I can relate to every one of these because I've been every one of these. And if you're an alcoholic like me or a drug addict like me, you're probably going to be able to relate to this too. There are, of course, the psychopaths who are emotionally unstable. We are all familiar with this type. They're always going on the wagon for keeps. They're over remorseful and make many resolutions, but never a decision. I've been that guy. There's the type of man who is unwilling to admit that he cannot take a drink. He plans various ways of drinking. He changes his brand or his environment. I've done that. I'm only going to drink beer. I'm going to drink and then have a bottle of water and then drink again. And then I've tried every means to curb this thing. There is the type who believes that after being entirely free from alcohol for a period of time, he can take a drink without danger. I've been that guy. I was sober for 7 years between 2003 and 2010. And then I picked up a drink and I was drunk until 2018. Went out for 8 years. Been that guy. There's the manic depressive type who is perhaps the least understood by his friends and about whom a whole chapter could be written. Then there are types entirely normal in every respect. We all like to think we're that guy, right? Entirely normal in every respect except in the effect alcohol has upon them. And I've probably been that guy at some point too. They are often able, intelligent, friendly people, right? We like to think we're that one. All of these and many others have one symptom in common. They cannot start drinking without developing the phenomenon of craving. This phenomenon, as we have suggested, may be the manifestation of an allergy, which I just explained, which differentiates these people and sets them apart as a distinct entity, and that entity is the alcoholic. It has never been, by any treatment which we are familiar, permanently eradicated. The only relief we have to suggest is entire abstinence. That's it. Party's over, Rover. It's done. I can't drink and do drugs anymore. Entire abstinence. And if an alcoholic and an addict like me is going to accept a regimen of life that requires complete abstinence from drugs and alcohol, I have to believe it's killing me, or I'm not going to do it. I'm going to find the loophole. And when he talks about these different types of drinkers, of alcoholics, not drinkers, but different types of alcoholics, he's talking about the behavior, right? So if we're in an AA meeting and we wheel a bar in, let's say there's 40 of us in there, and we wheel a bar in, open bar for everybody, right? And we get everybody drunk, get everybody drinking. You're going to have a pocket of people over here mingling around, putting the moves on each other, trying to romance each other. You're going to have a couple over here dancing on the bar, up and down the bar. You're going to have a pocket of guys over here probably starting fist fights with each other, right? You're going to have a few people scattered around crying into their beer, manic depressive type, all different behaviors. But every single one of them, if they're an alcoholic, their priority is that next drink. They're thinking about that next drink, where it's coming from. This immediately precipitates us into a seething cauldron of debate. Much has been written pro and con, but amongst physicians, the general opinion seems to be the most chronic alcoholics are doomed. And there's that word again, doomed. And we're talking about step one when we talk about doomed. Doomed to an alcoholic death, that's step one. So the general opinion seems to be that most chronic alcoholics are doomed. What is the solution? Perhaps I can best answer this by relating one of my experiences. 3 chapters in, we're going to read the chapter, What is a Solution? And we're going to get into that solution. Right now, Dr. Silkworth is just telling us his experience with one of these men, a couple of these men who have accepted this program at the time that he wrote this letter. About 1 year prior to this experience, a man was brought in to be treated for chronic alcoholism. Now, they keep calling it chronic alcoholism. To me, alcoholism is chronic because I'm never cured from it, right? He had but partially recovered from a gastric hemorrhage and seemed to be a case of pathological mental deterioration. A gastric hemorrhage is how a lot of alcoholics used to die, still do, really. It's when their esophagus ruptures and they present at the hospital basically drowning in their own blood. It used to be very deadly. Now they can treat it if they get it in time now, but this guy's partially recovered from a gastric hemorrhage. That's how bad he is. And he seemed to be a case of pathological mental deterioration, so they think this guy has wet brain. Stumbling, muttering to himself, the drop foot. They think he's got wet brain. This guy's in bad shape. He is at death's door. He had lost everything worthwhile in life and was living, one might say, to drink. Only living, one might say, to drink. He frankly admitted and believed that for him there was no hope. This guy's hopeless. So he's a hopeless alcoholic, dying of alcoholism. Following the elimination of alcohol, there was found to be no permanent brain injury, so he doesn't have wet brain. So they sent him off to a detox. They got him better at the hospital. They eliminated the alcohol. He doesn't have any brain injury. He accepted the plan outlined in this book. which is the 12 steps, the spiritual program of action, which we are going to get into throughout the course of this book. He accepted the plan outlined in this book. 1 year later, he called to see me, and I experienced a very strange sensation. I knew the man by name and partly recognized his features, but there all resemblance ended. From a trembling, despairing, nervous wreck had emerged a man brimming over with self-reliance and confidence. Now, some of you, if you're reading along, you're going to notice that I used the wrong word there, right? I said confidence. It's not what it says. It says, from a trembling, despairing, nervous wreck had emerged a man brimming over with self-reliance and contentment. It doesn't say confidence, but I'm going to tell you something. First couple of years I read this book, I never really caught on to that. It said contentment. It's hyphenated. That word's hyphenated at the end of the page. Goes on to, and my alcoholic, arrogant brain went to confidence. Because that's all I wanted. When I came in here, I just wanted to be the man that I once was. I wanted to get me back. I wanted to be that guy again. I wanted my confidence back. I had no idea the man that God was going to make of me through this program. I just wanted to be who I once was. But it doesn't say that. It says contentment. There's a lot of words that Dr. Silkworth could have used right here. Healthy, prosperous, happy. But he used the word contentment. And I really think that that's important because, you hear in the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous, they had something I want. You guys have something I want. And that's why I do this program. Dr. Silkworth, you might say, is looking at this guy, and this guy's got something he wants. Because here's a guy who was dying of alcoholism 1 year earlier. 1 year. This guy had a gastric hemorrhage, and they thought he had wet brain. 1 year earlier. Only a year's passed. This guy can't be in the best of health. But yet Dr. Silkworth is looking at this guy and what he sees that makes such an impact on him that he puts it in this book is here's a man standing before him that is self-reliant, he can take care of himself, and he's okay. He's okay with his lot in life. He's okay with the world around him. He's good. Man, I couldn't tell you how many years it had been since I was okay. When I came into Alcoholics Anonymous, and I see it all the time with guys, when I come in, I was so far from okay, and I didn't ever think I'd be there again. Content. So, for an alcoholic like me today, I see people and they use that regular, subscribed greeting. Hey, how you doing today? And I'm okay. And they look at me and they go, oh, is everything all right? Yeah, man, I'm okay. I'm okay today. That has such an impact on me, and that means so much to me today to be able to say that I'm okay, because I can't ever remember when it was. And then it goes on. When I need a mental uplift, I often think of another case brought in by a physician prominent in New York. The patient had made his own diagnosis and, deciding his situation hopeless, had hidden in a deserted barn determined to die. He was rescued by a searching party and in desperate condition brought to me. Following his physical rehabilitation, he had a talk with me in which he frankly stated he thought the treatment a waste of effort unless I could assure him, which no one had, that in the future he would have the willpower to resist the impulse to drink. And I'm never going to have the willpower. We'll get into this a little bit later, but willpower only shows up when what you think you're doing is wrong. Otherwise, if what I'm doing is okay and I'm good with what I'm doing, then I have no reason for willpower to be in the same room, right? And in a battle of willpower against an obsession of the mind, and the obsession of the mind is again a thought so powerful it makes me believe a lie. And if I have a thought that's telling me no, this is okay, well, then willpower just doesn't show up. It can't. So this is why willpower will never work. He assured him, which no one ever had, that in the future he would have the willpower to resist the impulse to drink. His alcoholic problem was so complex and his depression so great that we felt his only hope would be through what we then called moral psychology, and we doubted if even that would have any effect. So they don't even think God can help this guy. However, he did become sold on the ideas contained in this book. He has not had a drink for a great many years. I see him now and then, and he is as fine a specimen of manhood as one could wish to meet. I earnestly advise every alcoholic to read this book through, and though perhaps he came to scoff, he may remain to pray. William D. Silkworth, MD. And scoff means to snicker and look down on and look on with disdain. And that was me when I came into this program. I came here and I scoffed. This is a cult. These people are crazy. This isn't going to work for me. I'm not going to do this. But I bought in and I remained, and I definitely pray today. That's it for the doctor's opinion. And I think it's a good, obviously, we're going to stop here and open it up.